Hey everyone, welcome to Hello Church. I'm Justin Trapp.
And I'm Wade Bearden, and are you looking to be intentional about your future preaching? Do you want to go somewhere? Do you feel like you're just stuck? If so, we have an incredible resource. We're going to be talking about that today on this episode.
You know what day it is?
What day is it?
Today is International Podcasting Day.
At the time of this recording, International Podcasting Day. So we need cake.
Yeah, need cake and confetti.
And confetti. It doesn't matter what holiday it is, Sunday, Daughter Day, Podcast Day.
Yeah.
You need to celebrate with cake.
And pancakes and syrup.
There is a pancake day, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
There's a pancake
There's a day for everything. There's like a hot dog day. Now I'm hungry.
Okay.
We're talking about food days. So this year's been a tough year, right?
Yeah.
This has been a tough year for everybody. And as you know, we are heading into fall. I think it's officially fall now. Mm-hmm. The cool breeze is blowing in. And pastors, you know this, like once you get to Thanksgiving, mm-hmm. it's just like, I wouldn't say chaos, but it's just busyness, right? Mm-hmm. Leading up to Christmas, there's just nothing but busyness. So you don't really have a lot of time left to plan for next year.
Yeah. Well, if you are one of those people who it just feels like 2020 has gone on for 5 years, you're almost to Thanksgiving, and between that and Christmas, it'll feel like half a week or a week, and then we'll be done with the rest of the year. It's gonna speed up considerably.
Well, if you've hated 2020, good news, you can start looking at 2021 right now. And here's the deal, right? So everyone's been busy. It's been a tough year. If you're a pastor, it's about to get really busy in this holiday season. Mm-hmm. And there's this saying in business, and I think it applies to the church, and you just sort of change the words out. But, you know, you don't want to just work in the business. You want to work on the business. You don't want to just work in ministry. You want to work on your ministry.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to be able to regain momentum for this upcoming year, you have to be intentional. You have to sort of pull your head up out of, just making it past Sunday. And you've got to look at this next season of your congregation in 2021 and be intentional about your approach, about the things that you want to accomplish. And I love what John Maxwell says. John Maxwell, right? He's got that deep, deep voice. I love what he says, and I have it here. He says, an unintentional life accepts everything and does nothing. An intentional life embraces only the things that will add value or add to the mission of significance. Mm-hmm. And pastors, we know you're on a mission of significance, a mission of spiritual significance, of the gospel significance. Mm-hmm. And as you look to next year, let's be intentional. Let's be intentional about your schedule, about what you're working on, what you're preaching on, and that's kind of what brings us here today.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully this will help you get out of survival mode.
Yeah.
If you're always in survival mode in ministry, then you're probably going to find yourself stuck most of the time. And so you've got to find a way to get above the clouds to look at the entire picture instead of one small detail. And our sermon calendars, we're going to talk about them in just a moment, they'll help you do that. So every year at Ministry Pass, we release sermon series calendars, and essentially it's a 52-week roadmap for that next year, a collection of series with intentionality. Those just hit the Ministry Pass site. So they are live. You can check them out now. And we want to detail why we believe those calendars, or even just a calendar in general, is going to help you in 2021.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, because most pastors I know, myself included, right? I've been there where you're just trying to make it past this week, make it past this Sunday. And our studies have revealed that pastors aren't really looking past 2 weeks out. Yeah. And a lot of pastors are stressed. A lot of pastors are worn out. And if you really want to grab momentum by the throat this next year and say, we are going to move forward as a congregation, I'm going to improve as a communicator of the gospel, you have to be intentional. I remember when you were going to go run a marathon, and you can't just wake up and say, I'm going to run a marathon.
I've heard stories about that. It ends with people losing toenails.
Yes. we had a pastor friend of ours. He decided the same thing, and he TMI. He went and gorged on Chipotle right before We'll just leave it at that. Leave it at the guacamole.
But it takes time, right? To run a marathon, you got to train for like 5-6 months.
Well, you have to be intentional, right? You have to progress up to it. There's all these apps like Couch to 5K. Mm-hmm. That is that whole process is about being intentional and about ramping up and growing a little bit every single day. If you're wanting to do a diet, like really, if you look at any achievers, right, in our society, they are intentional about their time, about their health, about their mental health, what is Tom Brady? He does like these brain exercises.
Okay,
have you ever read articles about Tom Brady, how he takes stuff for his brain to make sure that his brain is sharp? And he's in his 40s now, playing in the NFL. Still looking strong.
Something TB12. Like that. I mean, it feels like he's 60 years old, right? But he doesn't look it.
And they've won like 100 Super Bowls.
It really involves intentionality, and anything good comes as a result of a lot of hard work and an intentional plan. If you expect something good to just kind of come out of nowhere and you're not working towards that, I mean, you're going to set yourself up for failure. Now, we know the Holy Spirit works. He can work miracles, but a lot of times God will work miracles through intentional planning. He will work us through a process. And so that's so important. And I think one of the ways that our calendars, a calendar in general, can help really regain momentum for you is because it helps you to see where you want to take your church. So instead of saying, oh, well, I'm going to preach on this topic this week, and then in 2 weeks, what sermon series should I begin? You start a sermon series. You look at the year and say, okay, where do we want to go? Where does God want to take us? What should we emphasize this year? What sermon series should we highlight during Christmas or during September when a lot of people visit our church? That's intentionality. And you have a roadmap, and you say, I want to get there. And we could go through, old adages all the time, but right, if you don't have a plan, then you're going to miss it every single time.
This is the John Maxwell. Fail to plan to fail.
Yeah, right? But it is true. I mean, if you don't have a plan, you're never going to hit it. And that's why you need to have a calendar. And hopefully that's what ours will do for you over this next year.
So our team, if you don't know this about us, our team at Ministry Pass, we've been around, this is our 6th year. Actually, this is our 6-year anniversary, and our team has created over 1,000 sermon series.
Yeah, it's wild.
We've created sermon calendars every year for the past 6 years, and these sermon calendars have an ebb and flow to them. We've created them with great intentionality so that as you're ramping up to Easter, your content, your series are ramping up. That they all sort of work together, all of these series throughout the year, to give you not only a balanced discipleship content plan, but also help you from a momentum standpoint. Sometimes we'll put a fun series in the calendar in a part of the year that's really is conducive for that. Sometimes we'll do a series that you dig a little bit deeper, but it works, right? It works for that particular season or part of the years. And we've created 6 calendars this year.
Yeah, 6 calendars. And I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I think having so many denominations can be actually a really great thing. So many different types of churches. There's no one way to do church if we are connected.
Repeat that again for the people in the back row. Repeat that.
Obviously,
again.
We're connected to the basics of the faith.
Absolutely.
We're connected to the Bible.
Apostles' Creed.
Yeah, there are a lot of different types of churches and a lot of different ways to minister to different types of people. And so that's what we really kind of keep in mind as we are creating our calendars. There are different types of pastors, and they communicate differently, and different people need to hear different things at different times. And so we have 6 calendars. We have one is called our expository calendar. And so what we do is essentially we create sermon series throughout the year that either dig through a book of the Bible or a passage of Scripture. So for example, the 10 Commandments is a 10-week series in the expository sermon series. We also have a sermon series on doubt. So we look at some headier topics and really push pastors and push people to dig in, to get deep. So that's the expository calendar. It also works through Lent and Advent. So it relies also on the church calendar. That's really important. And then we have our topical calendar. And a lot of times people think of it, if the expository is deep, then the topical's kind of surface level. Well, that's not really the case. All of our sermons,
the approach is different.
The approach is different. Our messages are based in Scripture, and it really is a topical approach to the year. And as always, and we say this, we don't give you manuscripts. We give you a guide, and we give you illustration help, and we give you research help and background help on passages to kind of get you going. So those are our two kind of main calendars. We have a youth leader calendar, which is topical as well, great for youth pastors, and it really, the emphasis in 2021 for our youth leader calendar is really own your faith and embrace Christ. Instead of just adding him to your life, live for his glory. We have a kids calendar, and the kids calendar is actually a reflection of the topical. So they are actually talking about the same thing. So if you have the topical calendar and your kids leader uses the kids leader calendar, you're going to be talking about the same subjects. Now, that's translated, so it's able
different
to communicate.
Series names.
Different series names.
Graphics.
Yeah, a different way of looking through the different topics. So that's important. And then we have 2 new calendars, which I'm really excited about this year.
Yeah, so this year we have a new calendar that's really like, I don't even know if it's a calendar as so much as one giant sermon series.
Yeah.
It's a 52-week sermon series, chronological look at the gospel. It's called The Gospel Story.
Yeah.
And I love the artwork. The illustrator that we worked with did a wonderful job illustrating really the gospel story from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited about this series. I think churches can hop in and take this series. You can start in the middle of the year if you needed to. This series is really, really versatile.
Yeah.
And it's 52 weeks long.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that. And then which kind of brings us to the end of this episode is a little teaser, but we have a lectionary sermon calendar this year. I'm really excited because we're going to be talking next episode a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Hey, just to give you kind of a brief overview, it's also 52 weeks long, but it does follow the church calendar year, and it's based on the lections or the passages cited in the Revised Common Lectionary. So this is actually year B. That goes on a 3-year cycle. And so if you are used to following the lectionary, or maybe you just want to get on a cycle where you're telling the whole gospel story throughout the year, and you're working through the seasons of the year and leveraging that and creating those habits, the lectionary is great for you. It's also just spread across a number of sermon series, so you can pick and choose. Mm-hmm. But the artwork is great. I mean, it's really
solid.
It's a wonderful calendar, and I encourage you to check it out. Even if you've never followed the Revised Common Lectionary, you don't need to do that to follow this sermon series calendar.
No, and really our hope and our prayer for our sermon calendars, we have 6 this year, is that they not only provide you a roadmap. We've had pastors email in and say, "Hey, listen, we follow your calendars verbatim. It just gives me so much freedom. I work a full-time job. I don't have time to do 15 hours of research every week, and so it provides a great relief for me, and it helps me tremendously." We have other churches that say, "Hey, we love this.
Yeah.
We will take your calendars. We'll start with your calendars, and then we'll add a few of our own series that that we feel like maybe we want to substitute some of the topic matter, or we've been wanting to go through the book of Luke, and you don't have the book of Luke in this volume of the expository calendar, but nonetheless we sort of mix and match." And then we have a few people that we've heard from that says that I take from them all.
Yeah, they like to take the framework.
So the stingy people at Golden Corral that make the multiple trips.
Yeah, take the framework and kind of replace it with your series. And a couple ways that this will help you out. If you have a calendar for the year, you can pull guest speakers, whether you have missionaries come in, or maybe you have an elder in your church speak periodically, or you just get other pastors to preach at your church. You can assign them a specific week and say, "Hey, here's the topic and here's the big idea. Go write your message." And that is really helpful for someone as a teaching pastor who teaches periodically at my church. It's great to be able to have that, because then it's like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. This is the text we're working through, and I'm going to study this passage and I'm going to preach it. So I think it can help you as you do that, and planning. if you wait till the last minute to get a guest speaker, usually you're not going to find a guest speaker.
Well, and you're also disrupting your content momentum, right?
Yeah, you are.
You're just sort of like pausing it in a way. And when you have the calendar, you can be intentional about this. And you can have more guest speakers. I say guest speakers. You can have more voices, so to speak, from the platform teaching at your church. Maybe you are doing that expository calendar and you're doing that series on doubt. And one of your elders went through a time in their life, they have a very powerful testimony. It's very real for them. And they had serious doubts, or maybe they used to be an atheist, whatever the case may be. You can go to them and say, hey, next year in April, we're going to be doing this series.
Yeah.
And I think you would be perfect for one of these weeks. Would you consider speaking? They might not even be on your regular teaching team, but now you've given yourself a week off. You've added another voice, and you've given them ample time to prepare and know what is expected from a content standpoint. And all they're going to have all that research that we've given you, so you could just pass that on to them. I think that's a wonderful idea, as opposed to like burning out and needing a vacation and having the youth pastor or somebody on your team fill in, and it just sort of pauses the content momentum. These calendars are designed to give you momentum throughout the entire year, so that when you do get to that Easter season and when you do get to that fall season, you are hitting on all cylinders. There's a lot of momentum. The congregation is engaged in the content. And our prayer is, we've seen hundreds of churches literally, email in the past several years and say the calendars have been such a blessing because they've really, really helped us move forward and disciple our people with intentionality. And it's helped me personally as a communicator. So make sure you check those out. They just released the latest volumes for next year, and we are excited. And if you have any questions about that, or you have any content, maybe you have your own sermon calendar. Maybe you've been using one. That's wonderful. If you have any tips for everyone else watching or listening, if you're watching on YouTube, put those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and we would also encourage you to subscribe wherever you get this episode.
Turn on the
notifications on YouTube or Spotify or Apple iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. We very much appreciate it. As always, too, leave us a rating. Maybe share our episode with someone. Maybe you're dialoguing with a friend about calendar planning. Share this episode and get their feedback. Talk about it as you begin to plan your calendar, or as you use Ministry Pass's materials. There are a lot of people who've used our materials, and they can definitely give you some advice on the best way to go about doing that. So we really appreciate it. And then you mentioned this, a little teaser. We're going to talk a little bit more about the lectionary calendar in our next episode. So if you're interested in that, even if you're not familiar with the way that works, listen in, tune in for our next episode, and I think it's going to be beneficial and maybe even convince you to use the lectionary calendar this next year.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the significance of the lectionary calendar and how it can be great for your congregation. So looking forward to that. Again, happy International Podcasting Day, my friend. I forgot your card at home, but we'll bring it next time.
Hey, next time. And happy fall. I know for us in Texas, the weather is a little bit cooler today. It's very nice.
I don't know any chance I can get to wear a jacket. Right? It's like we have just a smidge of a cool breeze, and it's like break out the jacket.
It's like hoodie weather.
I've been waiting to break out the mock turtleneck for years now.
Yep.
Maybe this is finally the season.
We'll catch you next time on Hello Church.